Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tony Braxton Smith. I'm the Chief Executive of the Department for Infrastructure and Transport here in South Australia. And my job tonight is to be the Master of Ceremonies for tonight's proceedings, which is the launch of the 2021 National Road Safety Week. Let me start by acknowledging that the land that we meet on today is the traditional land of the Kaurna people and that we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We also acknowledge the Kaurna as the custodians of the Adelaide region and that their cultural and heritage beliefs are as important to the living Kaurna people today as they have always been. We also pay respects to the cultural authority of Aboriginal people visiting or attending from other areas of South Australia. Welcome. Welcome to all. Before I introduce the first speaker, just a couple of housekeeping items. The first thing is, of course, this event is COVID safe and we thank you for adhering to the COVID safe practices throughout the conduct of the evening. Now, in case there's an evacuation, Adelaide Convention Centre Security will coordinate the emergency services responses, and we'll know that that's happening because first we'll hear a beep, beep, beep tone, followed by various evacuation messages. If that does occur in the unlikely event, staff will be here to assist us. Now, if I could just ask you to turn your mobile phones either off or to silent. It's intended that this official launch will run till approximately 7:20, after which there will be a networking opportunity in the foyer with some canapes and some further refreshments. Tonight's launch is also being live streamed, and we particularly welcome those across the nation watching this and those attending the New South Wales event, which is running in parallel. Now, I'd like to introduce our first speaker for the night, the South Australian Minister responsible for road safety, the Honourable Vincent Tarzia MP, who is also the Minister for Police, Emergency Services and Correctional Services. The Minister will officially launch the 2021 National Road Safety Week. Minister.
Thank you very much, Tony. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I also acknowledge that the land that we meet on today is the traditional land for the Kaurna people and that we respect their spiritual relationship with the country. We also acknowledge the Kaurna people as the custodians of the Adelaide region and that their cultural and heritage beliefs are still as important to the living Kaurna people today, and we also pay respects to the cultural authority of Aboriginal people visiting and attending from other areas of South Australia and Australia. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd also acknowledge some of our very special guests this evening. Of course, we have the Honourable Michael McCormack MP, the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Infrastructure, Transport and Regional Development. Welcome. Honourable Scott Buckholz MP, Assistant Minister for Road Safety and Freight Transport. Mr Grant Stevens APM, the Commissioner of Police. Ms Linda Williams APM, the Deputy Commissioner of Police. Peter Fraser, of course, the President of Sarah Group. And via live stream, I believe we also have New South Wales Minister for Transport and Roads, the Honourable Andrew Constance. Welcome. It's my great privilege to be here this evening on behalf of our Premier, Mr Stephen Marshall, but also the Government of South Australia, to extend a very warm welcome to you all as we launch Road Safety Week 2021 nationally. This is a cause that all Australians must be responsible for as we continue to witness the all too frequent tragedy of lives lost, broken families, serious injuries, emotional turmoil and the very real burden of individuals and healthcare systems caused by trauma on our roads. Tonight we gather with the opportunity and indeed responsibility to not only highlight the realities of road trauma and its enduring consequences, but to lead the conversation and be initiators of change. This is a cause for which all differences are put aside as we come together, united in our passion to deliver a life-saving message that encourages us to stop, to think, to reflect and to change our practices. It's very important that tonight we also honour the lives of those who have been lost on our roads, who have been affected by injury to themselves or their loved ones. This week in South Australia and across the nation, you'll see that bridges, buildings, icons, the Parliament, Adelaide Oval, will be lit up in yellow to honour the memory of the 1,200 lives lost on Australian roads each year over the past decade. This terrible number represents real, loved members of families and communities. And as we gather here and online around the nation via this evening's live stream, we know that events are occurring right across Australia as we speak this week, with some of our most respected leaders stepping in to highlight the national road safety focus. Tonight, I'm also very proud to present to you a message from the Governor-General of the Commonwealth of Australia, His Excellency General, the Honourable David Hurley AC. And the message reads, I'm pleased to provide this message in support of Yellow Ribbon National Road Safety Week 2021. National Road Safety Week is an important initiative of our national calendar that helps highlight the impact of road trauma and explores ways we can reduce it. Yellow Ribbon National Road Safety Week is an annual initiative of Safer Australian Roads and Highways, also known as SARA Group. The initiative was established in 2012 by Peter Fraser in honour of his 23-year-old daughter Sarah, who was killed in a horrific and avoidable crash on the Hume Highway. This year's theme, Lead the Way, Drive so Others Survive, is a timely reminder that our roads are a shared community resource. It is therefore incumbent on all drivers to actively protect those who are vulnerable on the road ahead. Everyone has a right to return home to their loved ones every day. So pledge to drive so others survive. Pledge to drive as if your loved ones are in the car ahead or in that oncoming vehicle. Pledge to drive as if your loved ones are beside the road or on a crossing. Pledge to drive safely because it's the right thing to do and because you care about your fellow Australians. And pledge to drive so that this time next year our national road toll will be less, far less than what it is today. Each year on average 1,200 Australians are killed on our roads and another 40,000 are seriously injured. These numbers are far too high. Road trauma and the loss of life as a result of road crashes are avoidable. I commend all at SARA Group as well as its principal partners and supporters for their important work in helping effect positive change in driver behaviour. So we thank His Excellency for that important message and we value the considerable role that it will play in furthering the national cause. I would particularly like to acknowledge and thank SARA Group and its partners, particularly President and Founder Peter Fraser. Thank you, Peter, for your passion, not only for the creation of the National Road Safety Week, but for the ongoing, the selfless, hard work, the dedication that has made this an event respected right across Australia. This is an inspiring gift to the nation, born out of tragic consequences and circumstances. But Peter, we thank you for your passion and we thank you for your generosity of spirit, sincerely. This year, Road Safety Week coincides and indeed forms part of the United Nations Global Road Safety Week, reflecting the worldwide effort to stop preventable tragedies. The real focus of tonight, though, is the message itself. It's a simple but compelling and a confronting call as well. Lead the way, drive so others survive. The onus is indeed on all of us to put the message into practice, physically every time we turn on that ignition. In South Australia, we've been running the Think Road Safety program, utilising mass media presentation, leveraging well-known local ambassadors and placing branding at targeted locations to reinforce this message and influence positive behavioural change. We're working in close consultation with communities right around the state to deliver a road safety strategy for the next 10 years, feeding into our national goals and our objectives. I know that other jurisdictions around Australia are delivering similar campaigns and similar strategies as well. Every action that's delivered is important to stopping the heartache and the pain. But one thing is clear, all crashes are avoidable. We need to know how to make the right decisions, when to drive, how to drive, and above all, we need to take responsibility for our own actions. So over this week, different themes will be highlighted each and every day, and you'll hear more about these as other speakers take to the podium tonight. Tonight, the focus is on remembering lives lost on our roads and our highways. We honour those lives best by taking strong action. So tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I add my voice to the growing chorus around Australia. Please lead the way, drive so others survive.
Thank you, Minister. Well, as the Minister mentioned, our National Road Safety Week this week coincides with the United Nations 6th Global Road Safety Week, and the United Nations Special Envoy for Road Safety, Jean Todt, has sent us the following message to mark this important occasion.
Looking back at the signing of the world's first intergovernmental treaty on road safety in 1909, we can only acknowledge the work that has been done. At the global level, we have seen the establishment of the road safety pillars and the safety system approach to road safety. There have been 3 global ministerial conferences, the inclusion of road safety in the United Nations SDGs, the 2020 Decade of Action, and the adoption of resolutions by the UN General Assembly. All of this emphasizes the dedication of the international community to tackle road safety issues. The approaches have been effective but have failed to gain the traction needed to significantly reduce the number of fatalities and serious injuries resulting from road crashes. To make the significant progress, a fundamental change in thinking is required. That is what the FIA Level Panel for Road Safety is trying to achieve through the development of a safe mobility culture where individuals, business, government and society are putting safety first and foremost in all forms and for all aspects of mobility. It includes the construction of safe roads and vehicles, implementation of efficient legislation, immediate response to road crashes and education of road users. 1,200 Australians are killed and injured on the roads every year. I would like to encourage you all to keep increasing collaboration to save lives and develop full safe mobility. I wish you a very productive event.
Well, our next speaker is Peter Fraser, the President of Safer Australian Roads and Highways. Peter established the Sarah Group in 2013 after his daughter Sarah was tragically killed in a road crash, as I recall, on the Hume Highway in 2012. Peter will discuss Sarah's story and remind us to remember that the 1200 is far too many lives that are lost on our roads. Peter.
Firstly, thank you for all who are here tonight, but also those online. Before I formally begin, it's my privilege to firstly thank the Minister for hosting National Road Safety Week launch here in Adelaide. I'd like to also say thank the Department of Infrastructure and Transport for the partnership that they've done with the Sarah Executive to not only make this National Road Safety launch a success, but also the week itself. I'm also honoured to share this platform with my good friends, the Deputy Prime Minister, and also Scotty Olcolson, Assistant Minister for Road Safety. These good friends have been have been with me on this journey now for some time, and I welcome their support. As our principal partners and supporters stand behind the work that we do, I'd also like to thank Jeff Doyle, our CEO of Altus Traffic, and Michael Kilgariff, who are both here, our CEO of Roads Australia, who have been on this journey now for some time. I'd also like to thank Annis Flint, the Australian Automobile Association, Volvo Cars Australia, 3M Australia, Traffic Management Association of Australia, the Australian Trucking Association, SG Fleet and Mixed Telematics. Without their support, we wouldn't be able to do this work. I also want to thank our global partners, and especially our volunteer board of the International Road Victims Partnership, who are online around the world at this very moment. And lastly, I wish to thank His Excellency, the Honourable David Hurley, Governor-General of Australia, for his support, his kind words in his statement for this year, and the general support of Sarah and our initiatives. Today we pause to remember the 1200. How is it possible that 1,200 Australians lose their lives every year and 40,000 are seriously injured on our roads and highways? You see, as every life is precious, our fundamental concern must be to do no harm. If there are just two things that I want you to remember from my speech today, it's these. Firstly, everyone has a right to get home safe to their loved ones every day, no exceptions. And secondly, it's my challenge to you. How do we work together to make that first statement a reality? In remembering the 1200, I've been asked if I could share my personal story. Some of you will have heard me speak of it before. I'm just a dad. I'm a grieving dad. I have 5 children and now one less who's alive. I've been asked to share my personal story because behind every statistic out there, there's a family, there's a loved one who's grieving for the loss of that other person. Or we have those who have been seriously injured on our roads, who themselves have to struggle every single day. I was brought into this space on the 15th of February 2012 when my own beautiful daughter Sarah Fraser was leaving our home in the Blue Mountains to travel down to start university in the Deputy Prime Minister's own town of Wagga Wagga. She was going to be down there at Charles Sturt University for the next 4 years. And I've got to say we're extremely excited because Sarah, having travelled the world, taking photos of individuals and working in orphanages, she was a person who gave her time freely to those who were vulnerable. She was actually going to be home where we could see her again, just a couple of hours away down in Wagga Wagga. On that journey, about an hour and a half out from leaving our home, Sarah's car broke down, something that happens 1,000 times a day across our nation. Her radiator failed. It meant that a car overheated, it lost power steering and it lost brakes, and so she had to pull in to what was an emergency lane that was far too narrow. It was only 1.5 metres wide on Australia's most important highway, the Hume Freeway. It meant that there were 3 lanes of traffic for 110 km/h vehicles, and this 1.5 with my arm span for her to pull in. Problem was there was a barrier that ran for 1,600 metres where Sarah was, and on the other side of that barrier there were brambles and it fell down into a creek. She physically couldn't get off that highway. She was the ultimate vulnerable road user, trapped. Two years ago I was asked to write the introduction for the National Road Safety Inquiry report, and I wanted to quote what I wrote. It was around 11:15 a.m. when Sarah left me a voicemail that will haunt me for the rest of my life. She said that as her car had lost power, she pulled over close to the guardrail but couldn't get a vehicle out of that high-speed lane. She was crying when she said that those brambles meant that she couldn't get to the other side of the guardrail. She physically couldn't get out of harm's way. To quote her words, "Dad, cars and trucks are speeding past just centimetres away from my car. No one is changing lanes away from me. I'm terrified they will hit me. I rang the NRMA. Dad, please call me." As I was at work, my mobile was off, so I didn't get the voicemail until just after 12:30 p.m. Hearing her message sent me into a state of panic. I dialed her mobile, but she didn't answer. I kept dialing it, but it just kept going to her voicemail. My beautiful daughter was the kindest, funniest, most intelligent person I'd ever met. She had everything to live for. But at 12:32, Sarah and the tow truck driver who had come to assist were horrifically killed when a passing truck crashed into them. She was now left in pieces on Australia's most important road. Everything that happened that day was foreseeable. The truck driver, Mr. Kane Barnett, was distracted. His only job was to protect all those on and beside the road. He was found guilty on 2 counts of dangerous driving occasioning death. and served 18 months for killing 2 innocents. Well, I have forgiven him, indeed our whole family has forgiven him. I've not forgiven the behaviours that caused my beautiful daughter's death. Yes, he was at fault, but the way that road was built was also at fault. It had been built and maintained. In this case, it deliberately put people in harm's way. No family should have to face what we are living through on a day-to-day basis. And we decided that Sarah would not just be another statistic. My son Ben said we had to do something in Sarah's name. He came up with the Safer Australian Roads and Highways, or as we're now known, SARA. He also said that we had to ensure that everyone committed to drive so others survive. Now the theme of National Road Safety Week. Our task became not only challenging driver behaviour, but challenging our jurisdictions to ensure that we build the safest infrastructure that we can. It seemed an enormous task, and indeed it is. Pardon me. We successfully campaigned to change that and set a precedent in terms of that emergency lane. And we then saw the other side of the road where it was the same also change. And now as jurisdictions look into how we build our roads and how councils build and maintain roads, it becomes very important that we don't put people in harm's way, that we ensure that they can get home safe. My beautiful, intelligent, adventurous daughter was taken before her time. So the mission of Safer Australian Roads and Highways is to make sure that other families and loved ones don't go through what we continue to go through on a day-to-day basis. But there is much for all of us to do. Since Sarah was killed, unbelievably, more than 10,000 Australians have died on our roads and more than 360,000 have been seriously injured. So to every driver and rider, I want you to think about how you can improve our behaviours on the road. To think, as is the motto here in South Australia, to think how differently you would drive as if your loved ones were on the road ahead. To think road safety and then commit to drive so others survive. To display a yellow ribbon to publicly show that you're a road safety champion. And to each jurisdiction, I want to say, think road safety. To think how we can make our road environment safer by building 3-star or better roads. And if we can't immediately upgrade the infrastructure, and as an aside, I want to thank the Deputy Prime Minister and the Assistant Minister for putting $2 billion into safer roads, because we are protecting Australians across our nation. But we can do things irrespective of that funding. My good friend Rob McInerney, CEO of the International Road Assessment Program, is here tonight. And Rob is that brother from another mother. He and I, in fact, he's an inspiration to me. He's a global road safety warrior, as I call them now. And every day, Rob and his team work in over 100 countries, a lot of them, those developing countries. And to actually improve road safety, we've got controls, very basic ones on occasions, through putting line markings in there, making sure we've got protections for run-off road, rumble strips and the like. But we've also got a way of controlling what happens on those roads through speed management, and we can upgrade to 3 roads or better, 3 stars or better, by putting in those controls. So to our jurisdictions and to our councils, when we review what happens on those roads and highways, how can we actually ensure that people can travel safely on them? So thanks, Rob. The other thing is, with United Nations Global Road Safety Week, we talk about speed management as well. And our 30 kilometres per hour, which is the desire and push across the United Nations right now in those urban areas and neighbourhoods. To think road safety and to say, how do we protect our kids? What should be the speeds in our streets, in our local environments? And that's a question, it's an open question. Safe Australian Roads and Highways just asks it. It's for the jurisdictions and the councils to say, this is how we're going to manage it and this is how we're going to save lives. So this Road Safety Week, we want you to think road safety and what you can do to protect those vulnerable lives, and to remember and honour those who have been killed and injured, to stand in solidarity with them, their families, their friends and their communities, to display a yellow ribbon to show your commitment to drive so others survive. And the reason is simple. Everyone's got a right to get home safe to their loved ones every day, without exception. Thank you.
Well, our next speaker is Deputy Prime Minister of Australia and Minister for Infrastructure, Transport and Regional Development, the Honourable Michael McCormack MP, who will give us a perspective from the national view of road safety. Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, thank you so much, and no one will give a better speech than that you just heard from Peter Fraser. No one will give a better speech this week on any topic. Spoken from the heart, Peter. I know you've got Judith here. I know you're a grieving dad. You're both grieving parents. Pete and I, when we see each other, we don't normally shake hands. We generally hug. It's just Peter's way. Scott Buchholz does that with anybody. God love him. And Vincent, I acknowledge you too, and thank you for hosting this important function tonight. But Pete and I share a few things. His beautiful daughter Sarah was going to Wagga Wagga, as he said. That is my hometown. Pete and I are about the same age. He's got a couple of years on me, but he's got a far more brown hair in his head than I do. But we've got a daughter about the same age. My daughter Georgina just turned 30. So they're around about the same age. And Peter's Sarah, Judith's Sarah, was going to Charles Sturt University, from where my three children, Georgina, Alexander and Nicholas, have all graduated. The youngest, Nicholas, has just done his policing course at CSU. It's a special university to our family. It's our hometown university, but creates opportunities and fulfills dreams for young people. Every young person deserves that opportunity, and sadly Sarah did not live to fulfil her dream. But her memory lives on through the Sarah Group, Safer Australian Roads and Highways, and it lives on through the passion of her dad. There's no one more dedicated, there's no cause more noble than this one, and there's no one more dedicated, as I say, than Peter. He's dedicated his life to it. He's had a few health issues lately, and he's marching on, he's soldiering on, because that's Peter Fraser. No one can keep this bloke down. No one ever will. And the causes which he aspires to make sure that people drive so that others survive, to make that commitment not to touch their mobile phone, to drive within the conditions, to drive within the speed limits, to have better infrastructure, better roads, is something that he has dedicated his every waking hour to, and I know he'll go on doing that. I lived on a farm between Wagga Wagga and Junee, not far from the scene of a dreadful crash in February 1984. I wrote an op-ed piece, an editorial piece about it earlier this year. Google it, it's there. It told the story of how I was sent out as a very young reporter to a terrible scene where a Vietnam vet and his family were almost totally wiped out by a car on the incorrect side of the road. And yet, whilst it was considered one of the Riverina's worst traffic crashes, a week later, another 6 people were killed not far away, Temora. And as Peter said, every one of those people taken was somebody's relative, someone's loved one. They loved and they were loved. Indeed, 13 children from those 2 accidents were left without a parent. It was a dreadful, dreadful week. But this, sadly, goes on right across our country every week of every year. I'm glad our police are here today. They do a magnificent job, as all first responders do, whether they're police, ambulance, state emergency personnel, and Vincent knows that, they do a great and tremendous job. Some of them do it in a volunteer capacity. They are all professionals, every one of them who responds to one of those crashes, and we owe them a debt of gratitude. I know how proud I am of my son Nicholas, now a constable in Sydney Police Station, but sometimes on traffic duty, and some of the stories that he's told me are just dreadful about people who just don't follow the road rules. It's not that difficult. Over the last 15 or 16 months, we've been dealing with the coronavirus. It has taken 910 lives. As Peter said, each year in Australia we lose 1,200. That's not to downplay either of those issues which take people's lives. But everybody has talked about coronavirus. Everybody should also think about road safety. It takes 1,200 or so lives a year. 40,000 people, 30 or 40,000 people are left, some of them permanently disabled, but injured in some way. Some of them carry the mental scars for the rest of their lives. And their families, those who are left behind, those who deal with those injuries, they are also very much affected by road crashes. That is why Scott and I have also dedicated much of what we do to get better outcomes around the cabinet table and around the full ministerial executive to make sure that there's more and more money for better infrastructure. $2 billion last year in road safety programs, another $1 billion in Josh Frydenberg's budget just the other night. That's $3 billion. As well, there's $2.5 billion for local roads and community infrastructure, which is going to also put in place some of those road safety initiatives. But whether it's through rumble strips or audio tactile lines or shoulder strengthening, guardrails, whatever the case might be, we still need better driver behaviour. And this week is an important week to think about that. But it shouldn't be just this week, National Road Safety Week. It should be every week. It should be every day. It should be every time people get behind the wheel of a car. They are a dangerous and deadly thing if people don't follow the road rules. Just one moment of distraction while you look at your mobile phone, 1 or 2 kilometres over the limit, not good enough. I know Andrew Constance is there on this particular live stream, and I thank him for the work that he's doing. But I also thank each and every road safety minister, roads minister, transport minister right across the nation. Doesn't matter what their political creed, colour stripe is, matters not a jot. They are all doing their job. They are all working in collaboration and cooperation with the Commonwealth, and I thank each and every one of them. Our truck drivers deserve a particular mention because I know that the Australian Trucking Association is involved in this, and I do thank them. They are doing a very, very good job, and just the other day I launched an initiative called Healthy Heads in Trucks and Sheds, which they are very much a part of. And the Healthy Heads initiative is to make sure about the mental health of our truck drivers. But our truck drivers were magnificent last year when everybody thought they needed more rolls of toilet paper than they ever would have in their houses. Everybody thought they could find it necessary to go to the supermarket and buy more food than they could ever use in any given period. And our truck drivers responded magnificently, but they responded also because the National Freight Code that Scott and I put in place in hours, not days or weeks, because of the good cooperation between ministers, transport ministers of different political persuasions. We had that drive, that energy, that enthusiasm, that shared belief. And that shared belief goes to road safety too. So I thank the truck drivers, I thank road users who do the right thing, and I thank the other transport ministers for what they do. I acknowledge Rob McInerney too. I can't see where you are, Rob. It's a bit hard. I've got some glaring lights here. But Rob McInerney, as Peter said, does a magnificent job on the world stage to make sure that not only are some of the Australian initiatives and programs broadcast to an international audience, but he also shares that collective wisdom and that collective idealism with other nations around the world, because the road toll anywhere you go is way too high. There was a compelling ad, and I'll just finish on this, a very, very compelling ad done by one of the state transport agencies not that long ago. And they were talking to a truck driver, a road user, and they were talking about the overall road toll. And they said to him, what would be a figure that you would think would be reasonable for the road toll? It's now around 1,100, north of that. Would it be 500? Would it be 100? Would it be 70? And he shrugged his shoulders and he said, yeah, I suppose 70. That seems reasonable. And at that point, the gates opened and out came 70 of his own family members. And the tears welled up in his eyes and he realised that there were 70 of his own family members. And that represented a number that some people might shrug their shoulders and say, well, that's a reasonable number. The reasonable number, ladies and gentlemen, is 0. That's what we should strive to. That's what we do when we talk about Vision Zero. We talk about 0 with net emissions. We should talk about it more about the road toll, because that is a figure absolutely worth striving for. That is a figure that should start right today. I know we've done a lot to make our roads safer, to make our vehicles safer. We need to make our driver behaviour safer, and we need to all strive every day in every way to ensure that we achieve Vision Zero. Not by 2050, but now. Thank you very much for participating in this very important event. Peter, I love you dearly, brother. You are a wonderful man, and I know that Sarah's legacy will live on. And I know that certainly the Sarah Group is doing a mighty and wonderful job of love, support and care for and on behalf of our nation. Thank you very much.
Well, our next speaker is a road crash survivor, Yudi Mohan Ram. Yudi is a guest speaker for the South Australian Metropolitan Fire Services for their Road Safety Awareness Program. This is a program that's delivered in regional, rural and metropolitan South Australian high schools, targeting young aspiring drivers about the great risks that come with the responsibility of having a licence. And tonight, Yudi will share his story with us. Yudi.
Thanks, Tony. So before I get into my presentation, good evening to everyone, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak here tonight on the National Road Safety Week 2021. What I'm about to present, which is my story, is actually what I give to schools, businesses, and councils across South Australia. In fact, I've just spent 2 weeks in Mount Gambier giving 9 presentations. Tonight is my 10th. The story that I provide is just part of a bigger picture that the South Australian Metropolitan Fire Service in the RAP program present, which is about 100 minutes. The dedicated MMS presenters give a true and honest presentation of what they see on the roads and how it impacts them on a daily basis as being first responders to crashes here in South Australia. If you haven't seen that presentation, believe me, what you think you know about the roads, they'll completely change how you would drive and how you react to situations on the road. Contact them, spend 100 minutes with them, and you'll be amazed how it's going to change the way you see yourselves on the road. So let's get into my actual story. So who am I? I'm guessing today you're expecting to see someone in a wheelchair or someone with missing limbs as a crash survivor, but don't allow my apparent lack of injuries fool you. How many moments do you know of that's changed your life forever? My name is Yudi Mohan Ram. I'm a husband, a father, a son and a brother. And Matthew, a risk-taker pleater, ran a stop sign and T-boned me while I was riding my motorcycle, throwing me 25 meters. As a result of being hit by Matthew, I fell into a coma for 4 to 6 days with a 10% chance of survival. My crash occurred in the Adelaide Hills, 5 minutes from home, at 6 p.m. on the 25th of October, the day before my birthday. So what was I doing prior to the crash? I have a master's in electronic engineering, and my team of 100 and I were working with Customs and Border Protection and Australian Defence across Australia and across the Asia-Pacific region in multiple industries. I played competition table tennis, cricket, badminton, and I was also a personal trainer. Love hiking and camping, and most of all, riding my motorcycle. And at the time, I had one daughter, and she was 18 months old. So let's talk about the crash. It's Friday, 5:15 p.m. I'm chatting with my boss, and little did I know that in 45 minutes later, my life was going to change forever. 6 p.m., I hear and feel the sounds of the crash. Matthew, the risk-taker people-eater, running that stop sign and T-boning me, trying me 25 meters. I awake to flashing lights with complete chaos around me. I'm lying in the middle of the road. My red helmet is off. My neck is in a brace, and there are two paramedics working on me. One saying to me, "Do you know your name? Do you know what day it is? Do you know the time?" I'm actually confused. The pain is intense, and from all accounts, I was actually screaming. I could feel the needles enter my veins, but all I wanted to do was stand, but both of my legs were facing the opposite direction. My body was overheating, and the ambulance officers began to cut all my letters off me. At the same time, my wife and 18-month-old daughter were driving past to be confronted with a scene of me lying in the middle of the road, paramedics working on me, and police directing traffic around me. They came over and tried to comfort me, and I was placed in an ambulance, and about an hour later, arrived at RH. That night, I spent that night in theater, having screws placed in my right wrist. On Saturday morning, the day of my birthday, I spent all day in theater, having steel rods and screws placed inside of me. And come Monday morning at 2 a.m., I fell into a coma for 46 days with a 10% chance of survival. As a result of being hit by Matthew, both of my legs were broken. My right wrist was crushed. All the ribs on my left side of my body were broken. My left collarbone was broken. All my internal organs were bruised. My lungs were damaged, and so was my voice box. Here with me, this is the actual piece of steel that we used to fix my left leg. They took the top of the left knee off. This was inserted in the leg, and I'm not sure if you can see the 4 holes in that piece of steel. A power drill was used to screw 4 stainless steel screws into my left leg. Just below the right knee, there was also a plate with 6 screws, and as I said earlier, 3 screws were used to fix my right wrist. So I'm in hospital. It's the 9th of November, and it's the day of my wife's sister's wedding. And that morning, the hospital calls my family to advise them they don't expect me to survive. Well, I did make it through those 24 hours, and still today, when I see my surgeon 19 years on, he says to me, "We don't know how you made it through those 24 hours." Fast forward 15 days out of the crash, I was taken out of the coma, and my surgeon said to me, "We're going to have to switch life support off to see if you're going to be able to survive on your own." The crazy thing about that day is, that day for me seems still as if it was yesterday. Me lying in the bed, and he's saying to me, "We're about to switch life support off." As soon as the machine was switched off, my body started crushing, and he said to me, "Unfortunately, we're going to have to put you back in a coma." The drugs were restarted, and I was now back in a coma for another 30 days. As you can imagine, I was in a lot of pain, and morphine was used to control that pain. The unfortunate side effect of being on morphine for such a long time now meant I was medically addicted to morphine. So before I can leave the hospital, I had to go into a 2-week rehab program to get off my morphine addiction. Yet, 12 months on, I was still having cravings of wanting another hit of morphine. When you're in a coma, you can still feel and hear what's happening to you, but you have no concept of time or day or night. The worst part of that is, you know you're dying, your brain's telling you you're dying, and there's nothing you can do about it. That scarring that comes with it stays with you forever, and it's unrelentless in every single day of gnawing at you. So I survived, and now came the long road to rehab. Straight out of the coma, I lost 15 kilos and could not hold up a newspaper. I had learned to walk and talk again. I had to teach the body that standing up was normal and lying down wasn't. I had learned to eat again. I had learned to go to the toilet again. I'd have hydrotherapy sessions to teach me to walk. And in a very short space of time, I had 450 physio visits, 3 days a week, 4 hours at a time. During that same period, I had over 600 massages. I'd have speech therapy once a week to teach me to speak again. And there were also other countless specialist visits. I'd have my voice rebuilt 4 times and 2 cysts removed off my voice box. and to leave the hospital, in excess of $6 million was spent. As you can imagine, it's impacted me, my family, and the wider community. With myself, it comes as emotional, physical, and psychological scarring. A few years ago, I caught up with a very good friend of mine. And there are photos to prove that we're really good friends. But as a result of my memory loss, I don't remember her, or I don't even remember her husband, who's actually related to me. When you've gone through the trauma I've been through, you're never able to see properly again. In fact, when I get tired, my body will still wake me up at 1 o'clock in the morning, telling me, you're going into a coma, you need to get up. And if there's no lights on, in those microseconds, my brain's trying to work out where I am and what am I doing. Your broken bones heal, but emotional scarring that comes as a result of the crash never leaves you and is unrelentless in giving you pain every day. I did have the opportunity of going back to work full-time for 5 years, and I was fortunate enough to work with GM and Holden in being part of a team to build a VE Commodore. But every year in that 5-year period, I had 10 weeks off for surgery. And year 5, when my voice box collapsed, my surgeon said to me, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to work full-time anymore. Your family loves you, and they care for you a lot, but lots of times they don't really understand what it means to wake up every single day and fight for the next 24 hours. I have anxiety attack, so lack of sleep, noise, all trigger my anxiety. I stopped going to the cricket because crowds also trigger my anxiety. And there are days where I can go for no sleep purely because of the amount of physical or emotional pain I'm in. I get sick very often. My immune system is compromised, so 1 year I had pneumonia for 6 months. I grew up in the beaches of the West Indies and South America. Hanging out to the beach was something we did all the time. But as a result of the damage to my legs, walking in sand is like walking 1,000 needles at a time. The damage to the voice box causes eating. Eating becomes tricky, and I choke very easily. I do have post-traumatic stress, so when my body gets to the same temperature as when I was lying on the ground, I start having an anxiety attack. 10 years ago now, I would have taken my own life. 10 years ago now, I would have taken my own life. And believe me, that's an extremely dark place to be in when you can't deal with all the trauma as a result of the crash. That dark place spirals out of control extremely quickly. For crash survivors, that dark place is always there with them. A lot of effort is spent every day trying not to fall back into that dark place. I have rehab every single day, and there are days where I can cry all day. I have reduced lung capacity, so I'm consistently fatigued. I've already had 15 different types of surgery. I've already had arthritis in my right wrist and right knee. And when I can't sleep, I use a fan because the fan makes the same sound as the machine that was keeping me alive. The crazy thing about that is I find that sound comforting, but my family has sat there for 3 weeks, not knowing if I was going to survive or not. Absolutely hate that sound. Now, if you think that's a long list, I haven't even scratched the surface on things like social isolation. Ask yourself, where do your friends come from? It's work, sport, school for the kids. And when you stop working or playing sport and it's all taken away from you, when you didn't ask for it to be taken away, your friends start disappearing, and you're certainly left alone to deal with all the trauma as a result of the crash. And how has it impacted my family? My wife's married to a different person. Put yourself in their shoes when they drove up to that chaotic scene of 2 paramedics working on me and police directing traffic around me. It affects them when I get angry and depressed. I can't take part in all family activities such as hiking and skiing with my girls. My eldest daughter, who was at the scene, has nightmares. When I go and support my kids at sport and I'm cheering them on, they can't actually hear me because my voice is too quiet. And do you think that's fair to them? They can't actually hear me when I'm actually trying to support them. I can't play sports with my kids and I can't run with my kids. When I'm sick or have surgery, it has a huge impact on them. So remember to start, I had a brilliant career in front of me. My team and I were doing some amazing things for Australia. In fact, the stuff we put in place 19 years ago is still used today to protect Australian borders. Now I spend my time in rehab, sitting in waiting rooms to see doctors, physios, and surgeons. just trying to stay alive and not get sick. I do a lot of volunteer work with the RAP team and some other groups here in South Australia. I now have 3 elders that I care for. So in closing, Matthew was in a hurry to get pizza that he ordered when he ran that stop sign and T-boned me. And in that split second, he ruined my life and he ruined Matthew's life. Matthew also has convictions in his record that precludes him from doing some work that Matthew wanted to do. I've met Matthew and I've met Matthew's mom, and they've both apologized to me. But do you think that apology changed the situation that Matthew's placed me and my family in? When I'm having conversations with the students, I talk about this. Today's session is about a life lesson. It's about making decisions in life and making sure whatever decision you make must have a positive outcome on you and everyone else. One of the key phrases that's used in the RAP program is that you're in control of the risk, but you can't control the consequences when you take that risk. I was interviewed by a reporter in Mount Gambier, and he asked me, why do you do these presentations? And actually, it's not something I've already thought about. But my answer to him was, I care for everyone, and I care for everyone in this room. I really don't want you or anyone else in your family to go through what I go through. Because I'm going to tell you now, trying to walk in my shoes is not something you ever want to be in. So thanks for listening. Make sure you make positive life choices. On a final note, I can't thank enough the people that have participated in my recovery. From the time I was lying on that road, all the strangers, SA ambulance, the police, and all the doctors and physios and surgeons that worked tirelessly to keep me alive. But it's not just them, it's my family who was there every step of the way, that lives it with me every single day. It's not really fair to them, and I thank everyone that have participated in my recovery. Thanks a lot for listening.
Thank you, Yudi. That was a powerful story. I'd now like to introduce our next speaker, the Assistant Minister for Road Safety and Freight Transport, the Honourable Scott Buckholz, who will be focusing on regional communities, I think.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to say a few words. 1,200 lives lost each year is appalling. And the reason I think it's appalling is because most of them are avoidable. They're avoidable. 1,200 in Australia, 1.35 million internationally, and most avoidable. I left Brisbane this morning at the truck show. And before I left home, my darling Christine, who'd packed my bag, said to me, "Do you need a tie?" And I went, "No, I don't need a tie. Peter Fraser hasn't done his top button up for 10 years. I don't need a tie today." Mate, I acknowledge you. It's always wonderful to see you. This is your show. This is why we're here. I travelled from Brisbane this morning. I'll speak tonight, and then tomorrow morning at first light I jump on a plane and drive, end up in Townsville. Then I'll get in the car and drive 6 hours west to a place called Richmond, where as soon as I leave within the hour perimeter of Townsville, the chances of having a car accident in a regional area start to increase exponentially. Before I tell you of that story, I want to acknowledge my good friend Michael McCormack, Deputy Prime Minister, because I think he sold himself short with what he's doing in this space. And when I first started in this job, I was the Transport and Roads Minister. There was no Road Safety Minister. You know, I'm the first one. Yet McCormack put me in the job because He wanted to make sure that within the outer cabinet that there was a line of sight specifically dedicated to road safety. So I carry that on my business card very proudly. And McCormack, you also you mentioned the big numbers, the $2 billion that we had on the road, and the reason that we threw another $1 billion at the Road Safety Fund, which is predominantly to put the medium strips in the middle of the road and the rumble sticks, is because the evidence tells us through the Black Spots program that he also funds that we can see a 30% reduction in loss of life and serious injury when we make those decisions. You were the first one within the bowels of your department, and his department is a behemoth. It is an enormous department. Infrastructure, transport, just those two names alone, crack in around $110 billion worth of infrastructure and investment in the decade in front of us. That's his department. He's got regional development, communications, and the arts. So I know how busy I am, but to have you here tonight, Deputy Prime Minister, standing side by side with this industry is evidence of how committed you are to road safety here in Australia. You were the first one that within that department to put the National Road Safety Office. You did that. He was also the first one to invest another $5.5 million for the National Database Hub. And by jingoes, if our forefathers of Federation left as a cracker of a gift, it's working with the states trying to get data from them. But hopefully that money will break down some of those barriers in trying to correlate. It's not as if people don't want to cooperate. It's just that each state has different platforms, and it's about investing into platforms that harmonise and are transferable. That extra $1 billion that you took into ERC, and Josh announced the other day, the fundamental difference about that money is that with the states, it's use it or lose it. That's how serious he is about making sure that money hits the road, that the rubber hits the road. If states don't use it, it'll go into a pool, and other states will have the opportunity to bid for it. And South Australia has not missed out with reference to their ability to fulfil their tranches, and I know they will. Vincent, thank you so much for hosting us here tonight. I mean, the Deputy Prime Minister's busy, but we come, and no better place to have it here than South Australia with you. Can you please pass on my regards to Corey Wingard for the work that he has done in the past in this state, and let him know that we've all taken note that he's not here tonight. A little bit of a backhander to him. Grant Stevens, our Commissioner of Police, lovely to meet you on the way in. It was the correct answer when I asked you, was Vincent a good minister, and you said the best. I think there's a pay rise coming your way. But nothing frustrates first responders when they're at an accident in a regional area or in a metropolitan area, when they see that the life could have been prevented because there was no seatbelt on, or there was drugs or alcohol involved, or when the investigators do their research, they find that there's a mobile phone halfway through a text at the very time that the accident, or the skid marks prior to the car or motorbike or the collision indicate that speed was definitely a factor. The other giveaway is that the motor's sitting in the boot. Spare a thought for the first responders. 75% chances start to head north once you get into a regional and remote area. And Yuri, you said you were 5 minutes away from home. 10 minutes away from home is where the high risk area. I tell my kids that every day. 10 minutes is the dangerous part for for the chances of getting hit. Christine and I have five kids between us, and 3 of them have got driver's licences. And to hear your stories tonight, and I've heard your story a dozen times, but I still cry. I still cry. Because when it comes to losing a child, if a child loses a parent, there's a name for it. They become an orphan. And if a husband or loses a wife, he becomes a widower. They're a title, but there's no name. There's no name for a parent that loses a child in the English dictionary because it's unnatural and it's not supposed to happen. So when it comes to regional and remote roads, it is avoidable. Fatigue plays a role. The fatal fire, it all plays a role. The roads that we drive on today through McCormack and governments, and here absolutely alluded that state governments of the persuasion, we are all in lockstep. There is no us and them in this space. We are all motivated from either sides of the political landscape to deliver better outcomes in this place. Our metropolitan roads are potentially some of the safest, on par with other metropolitan roads around the country. Where we fail is regional and remote, dirt roads. We'll make those investments. Like I said, tomorrow I'm driving out to Richmond. There will be 30 Shire mayors, basically a third of Queensland, will be there. And there'll be one game in town, money for roads. It brings economic prosperity, but the safety element alone of it is what I know is going to be high on the agenda. It's always a pleasure to be here in South Australia. I feel privileged to be in a room with Michael McCormack, knowing the work that he is doing in this place. I'm not doing it because I'm looking for a promotion, brother. I'm doing it because you single-handedly do a lot in this space, and I don't think I do enough telling Australians what you do. To everybody else that makes a contribution that lifts in this space, put your head on your pillow tonight knowing that Australia owes you a debt of gratitude. Thank you.
Our final speaker for the evening is the South Australian National Football League Chief Executive, Darren Chandler. The SANFL is a valued road safety partner for the Department of Infrastructure and Transport, assisting us in the promotion of the Think Road Safety brand to the South Australian community via their network of regional football leagues and clubs. Darren will be sharing with us his inspiration to other organisations to take the pledge and lead the way. Darren?
Thank you and good evening. I'd like to start by saying how grateful I am to be here tonight on behalf of SANFL and be part of this important road safety initiative. I took the pledge this afternoon and I'm certainly going to do my bit to make sure that every footballer in South Australia and those Australians associated with football do the same thing. I'd like to acknowledge Minister Tarzia for providing SANFL the opportunity to share with you some of the work we do across South Australia and particularly in regional areas to promote road safety. SANFL has been a strong and committed road safety advocate for many years. Our partnership with the Department for Infrastructure and Transport, helping to promote Think Road Safety, forms an integral part of our vision to create healthier lives and more connected lives through footy. As the organisation overseeing community football at all levels in South Australia, just how important road safety is to the SANFL cannot be underestimated. SANFL is connected with some 252 clubs across 27 leagues and more than 54,000 players who play footy in our community leagues each weekend. We also connected to hundreds of coaches, umpires, administration staff and thousands of spectators and volunteers who contribute their time to local footy, all travelling on the roads. It is through these deep connections with communities right across the state that we profoundly understand the importance of road safety and the impact of road trauma. When we first partnered with the government to become an advocate for road safety some 10 years ago, it was because we could no longer sit back and watch road trauma continue to impact our footballing communities at the rate it was. Too many young men and women were dying. Too many families were being torn apart, and too many communities were reeling from the impacts of road accidents. In a previous role of CEO of the Glenelg Football Club, I saw this firsthand when one of our under-19 players didn't make it to training. And the impact that that had, not only on that player's family, but in the entire football club, was something that I certainly don't want to go through or wouldn't wish upon anyone else. Football, after all, is all about community. Those 252 clubs are often the heartbeat of their local town, a place to congregate on the weekend, and a place where everyone knows each other. And each incident, each life-changing injury, and each tragic death has a profound impact on our footballing communities. Football is also something incredibly positive. And we have seen through our road safety advocacy efforts, football can also be a remarkable vehicle for change. Over the past decade, we have been committed to driving strong messages about the importance of road safety and dangers of being distracted behind the wheel, speeding and driving under the influence. Today, we continue to share the Think Road Safety message with our footballing communities. With the support of SAPOL by delivering road safety seminars to our players throughout regional South Australia. Road safety ambassadors are appointed at each club and have made a significant contribution to raising the profile of this important issue. And SANFL community clubs are also being actively encouraged to take the pledge to drive so others survive, as part of our ongoing commitment to promoting road safety. One of the most important road safety initiatives we undertake each year is the Community Football Think Road Safety Round, to create awareness and drive the important road safety message through community clubs right across the state. In addition, Think Road Safety is aligned with the SANFL Community Football Country Championships, this year being held in Victor Harbor in early July. The country champs, which bring together more than 500 players, umpires and volunteers and thousands of spectators, is a vital platform to further spread awareness about road safety. Importantly, our work has helped contribute to changing attitudes and behaviours among young footballers by encouraging safe driving within football clubs, encouraging the positive reinforcement of safe driving between peers, and challenging embedded attitudes towards road safety. But we know that the work is not done yet, as long as we continue to witness young people dying and being seriously injured on our roads, as long as we continue to see families and communities torn, devastated by road trauma, we must continue to raise awareness and work toward changing attitudes in society. That's why we at SANFL are proud to once again be involved with National Road Safety Week. It's a critical initiative as part of our mission to create healthier and more connected lives through footy, and our mission to make our roads safer for everyone. Thank you once again, Minister, for the opportunity to speak tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd just like to invite the South Australian Minister for Road Safety, Minister Tazia, back to share with us some final remarks.
Thank Thank you, Tony. And to our friends on the Eastern Seaboard, when we talk about football, we're talking about Aussie rules, just for clarification. Not football, not soccer, not rugby, Aussie rules. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming together tonight. I think you all agree that it was extremely insightful and productive. I'd like to begin by thanking Peter. Peter, thank you very much for your passion in this area. I think we can all proudly say that Sarah's legacy certainly lives on, and by working together, I've got no doubt that we're going to continue to achieve great things in her memory. So thank you very much for your passion, your story, and for all the work that you do. Deputy Prime Minister, an extremely busy and important man, one of the highest legislators in our country. Could have been anywhere else tonight, but he's chosen to be here in South Australia to help us launch this national initiative. Deputy Prime Minister, thank you sincerely for all the work that you do in this area. You certainly have a friend here in South Australia, and we really do appreciate your time. And to Scott, the offsider, thank you very much, Scott. We also appreciate all that you do, and we'll continue to work together, being a state government, with the feds to get as much as we can to make sure that we continue to make our roads as safe as possible. I'd like to also take this opportunity to thank the Department of Transport and our South Australia Police. I'm the #1 ticket holder for South Australia Police at the moment. They're doing an outstanding job keeping us safe, but not only our South Australia Police, but also all of our emergency service workers that are here tonight. And I know we've got representatives from the CFS, from the MFS, from the SES, often our first responders that are out there. But also all of the various partners that work together in this space, from various organisations working hand in glove with government, like the RAA, like the other organisations we've spoken about this evening, to make sure that we can do everything we can to continue the strong educational focus, to continue to make our roads as safe as possible, and to continue to work with governments to make sure that the law also reflects the community expectations to encourage good driver behaviour as well. We sincerely appreciate all of your efforts. Yudi, what you've given me tonight is perspective. Stories like Peter's, stories like yours help to drum home to me why it's so important what we do, why we need to continue to work together with different levels of governments across the different political spectrum. It's about protecting lives out there and making sure we do all we can to make our roads as safe as possible. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for taking the time out of your busy schedules to be here this evening. Let's enjoy this week. Let's make sure it's a fruitful and a productive one. I'm sure it will be, and I look forward to meeting many of you and having a chat a bit later. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Rove McManus. Did you know every year more than 1,200 people are killed and another 44,000 seriously injured on Australian roads? People who are missed and matter to those dear to them. This year, be a champion. Wear a yellow ribbon or put one on your car. Pledge to make the roads safer for everyone. Remove distractions and never use your mobile behind the wheel. Don't put people at risk by speeding, driving while tired, or under the influence of alcohol or drugs. And talk to people about how they can reduce their risk as a driver for their own safety and the safety of others. Because everyone has the right to get home safely. For more information, visit roadsafetyweek.com.au and pledge to drive so others survive.
Thank you everyone for your attention. With that, the formalities are concluded, but please do stay with us. Join us in the lobby for some networking and a little refreshment. Thank you.